What does it take to be called great? Alexander was great. Catherine was great. Frederick was great. In 5,000 years of recorded human history, only a handful of rulers have ever earned that title. In India, there is only one. Akbar. Born in exile. Raised on horseback. Crowned at 13. Could not read a single word his entire life. And yet, he built an empire so magnificent, so tolerant, so brilliantly administered, that historians still study it 500 years later as a model of enlightened governance. This is not just the story of a conqueror. This is the story of a mind so extraordinary that it transcended every limitation placed upon it. This is the story of Akbar the Great. Akbar was born on October 15, 1542 in the fort of Umarkot, while his father Humayun was a fugitive emperor fleeing across the deserts of Sindh. He spent his entire childhood in exile, in war camps, and in the courts of strangers. He never learned to read or write. Historians believe he may have had dyslexia, though the word did not exist then. When his father Humayun finally recaptured Delhi in 1555, Akbar was just 12 years old. 6 months later, Humayun was dead, fallen down a staircase. On February 14, 1556, on a simple platform in a garden in Kalanur, Punjab, 13-year-old Akbar was crowned emperor of the Mughal dynasty. The empire was surrounded by enemies. The treasury was empty. Half the nobles were untrustworthy. And its new ruler was a 13-year-old boy who could not read. History laughed. Akbar did not. Behind every great ruler there is often one person who gave them the foundation to be great. For Akbar, that person was Bairam Khan, his guardian, his regent, and the most brilliant military mind in the Mughal Empire. While the teenage Akbar learned to govern, Bairam Khan ran the empire and won its battles. It was Bairam Khan who fought and won the Second Battle of Panipat in 1556, crushing the Hindu general Hemu who had briefly seized Delhi. It was Bairam Khan who held the empire together through its most vulnerable years. But as Akbar grew older and more confident, the relationship became complicated. By 1560, Akbar was 18, ready to rule alone. He dismissed Bairam Khan with honor, sending him on pilgrimage to Mecca. On the way, Bairam Khan was assassinated by an Afghan enemy. The mentor was gone. The student was on his own. And what Akbar did next stunned the entire world. Make no mistake, before Akbar was a philosopher, he was a warrior. Between the ages of 13 and 30, Akbar personally led military campaigns that expanded the Mughal Empire to a scale his grandfather Babur could never have imagined. He conquered Malwa, Rajputana, Gujarat, Bengal, Kashmir, Sindh, Balochistan, and Kandahar. He fought in blazing deserts and icy mountain passes. He crossed flooded rivers on elephant back and scaled fortress walls under arrow fire. There is a famous story. At the siege of Chittagong in 1568, Akbar personally sniped and killed the Rajput general Jaimal from 800 yards with his personal musket named Songram. The fortress fell. But what made Akbar truly different from every conqueror before him was what he did after winning. He did not loot. He did not massacre. He did not humiliate. He invited the defeated into his empire as equals. The Rajputs were the warrior clans of Rajasthan, fierce, proud, and fiercely independent. Every ruler before Akbar had tried to crush them. Akbar did something nobody had ever thought of. He married them. In 1562, Akbar married Jodhabai, the daughter of the Rajput king of Amba. It was not merely a marriage. It was a revolution. For the first time, a Mughal emperor had a Hindu wife. For the first time, a Hindu princess brought her religion, her priests, and her traditions into the Mughal court. Akbar did not ask her to convert. He did not ask her to hide her faith. He built her a temple inside the imperial palace. Her son, born of a Mughal father and a Rajput mother, would one day become Emperor Jahangir. But the Rajput alliance went further. Akbar appointed Rajput generals as commanders of his armies, men like Man Singh, who became one of his greatest military leaders. the former enemies became the empire's most loyal defenders. Here is where Akbar becomes truly extraordinary. In 1575 he built the Ibadat Khana, the house of worship, at his new capital Fatehpur Sikri. Every Thursday evening, Akbar would sit in this hall and invite scholars from every religion in his empire to debate theology. Muslim scholars sat beside Hindu priests. Jain monks argued with Christian Jesuit missionaries sent from Portugal. Zoroastrian fire priests debated Sufi mystics. Akbar listened to all of them. He asked questions that no emperor had ever dared ask publicly, questions that challenged the absolute claims of any single religion. In 1582 he founded Din-i-Ilahi, the divine faith, a personal spiritual philosophy that drew from Islam, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and Jainism. He was not abandoning Islam. He was going beyond it, searching for something universal. In 16th century India, in an age when Europeans were burning people alive for religious differences, Akbar was hosting interfaith philosophy debates. 500 years ahead of his time. In 1569 Akbar made a pilgrimage to the tomb of the Sufi saint Sheikh Salim Chishti in a small village called Sikri. He prayed for a son. Within a year, a son was born. Akbar named him Salim, in honor of the saint. In gratitude, Akbar built an entire city around the saint's tomb. Fatehpur Sikri, City of Victory. It was built in just 15 years and became one of the most magnificent cities on earth. Red sandstone palaces, mosques, audience halls, and gardens, all reflecting Akbar's unique vision of an architecture that blended Persian, Indian, and Islamic styles into something completely new. The Great Mosque, the Jama Masjid of Fatehpur Sikri, contains the famous Buland Darwaza, the Gate of Magnificence, one of the largest gateways ever built in the world. Fatehpur Sikri was Akbar's dream made solid in stone. The city that faith and gratitude built. No great emperor rules alone. Akbar surrounded himself with 9 extraordinary men known as the Navratnas, the 9 jewels of his court. Abul Fazl, his biographer and chief minister, who wrote the Akbarnama, the magnificent official history of Akbar's reign. Faizi, Abul Fazl's brother, the greatest Persian poet of the age. Birbal, Akbar's closest friend, famous for his legendary wit and wisdom. Tansen, perhaps the greatest classical musician who ever lived in India, whose singing could reportedly make it rain and light lamps with the power of his voice. Raja Man Singh, his greatest military commander. Todar Mal, the finance minister who created India's first systematic land revenue system. Raja Bhagwan Das, the Rajput noble who cemented the Hindu-Muslim alliance. Abdul Rahim Khan I Khana, poet and warrior. And Muladu Piazza, another advisor famed for wisdom. 9 extraordinary minds. 1 extraordinary emperor. Together they built something the world had never seen. Here is the most astonishing paradox of Akbar's life. He could not read. Not a single word. Every document in his empire, every law, every letter, every treaty, had to be read aloud to him. And yet, Akbar built a library of 24,000 manuscripts. Every night, for hours, someone would read to him history, philosophy, poetry, theology, science. He remembered everything he heard with photographic accuracy. He could quote passages from books he had never seen with his own eyes. He spoke Persian, Hindi, and several other languages. He was fluent in the Quran despite never having read it. He commissioned the translation of Hindu scriptures, the Mahabharata and Ramayana, into Persian so that his Muslim courtiers could understand the Hindu heritage of their country. An emperor who could not read created the most literate and intellectually vibrant court in the world. Think about that. By the 1590s, under Akbar's rule, the Mughal Empire had become the largest economy on earth. Historians estimate that the Mughal Empire under Akbar produced approximately 25% of the entire world's gross domestic product, more than the whole of Europe combined. The population was over 100 million people. Trade flowed from Europe to Southeast Asia through Mughal ports. The textile industry of Bengal alone produced more cloth than all of Britain. The cities of Agra, Lahore, and Fatehpur Sikri were larger and more prosperous than London, Paris, and Constantinople. When the first English merchants arrived at Akbar's court in the 1580s, they were overwhelmed by the wealth they saw. The jewels, the silks, the spices, the architecture, all of it was so far beyond anything in Europe that they could barely find words to describe it. This was Akbar's India. The richest, most powerful, most culturally vibrant civilization on earth. Even the greatest stories have shadows. In his final years, Akbar faced a pain that no military victory could solve: the rebellion of his own son. Prince Salim, the boy born of Akbar's prayer at Fatehpur Sikri, grew impatient waiting for the throne. In 1600, Salim raised an army and declared himself independent ruler of Allahabad. Father and son were at war. Akbar's closest advisor and friend Abul Fazl, who had spent his life writing Akbar's history, was assassinated on Salim's orders. Akbar was devastated. The betrayal broke something in him. He reconciled with Salim eventually, because what choice does a father have? But the grief never left him. In 1605, Akbar fell ill with severe dysentery. On October 27, 1605, at the age of 63, Akbar the Great died. He had ruled for 49 years. He had transformed a fragile kingdom into the greatest empire on earth. And he died with a broken heart. Akbar's tomb stands in Sikandra near Agra, a magnificent garden tomb that reflects everything he stood for. Blend of styles. Open to all. Quietly magnificent. Akbar is buried there in a simplicity that belies the scale of what he achieved. He built an empire. He built a culture. He built a philosophy of tolerance that India would not see again for centuries. He proved that an illiterate boy raised in exile could become the greatest ruler of his age if he had the hunger to learn, the courage to question, and the wisdom to listen. In our next episode, we meet Akbar's son, Jahangir, a man of extraordinary artistic sensibility who loved wine, nature, and painting, and whose reign was quietly dominated by the most powerful woman in Mughal history. The story of Jahangir and the Empress Nur Jahan is one of the most fascinating love stories and power struggles in all of Indian history. That story is coming next. Subscribe to the history class, and we will see you in the next class. Disclaimer: the information presented in this video has been researched and compiled from multiple historical sources including books, academic papers, encyclopedias, and historical records. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, history is a subject of ongoing research and interpretation. Different historians and sources may present varying accounts of the same events. We do not claim this to be the definitive or only version of events. Viewers are encouraged to explore multiple sources and form their own informed opinions. The creators of this channel are not responsible for any inaccuracies, omissions, or misinterpretations that may exist in this content. This video is intended purely for educational and informational purposes.